Welcome back to Ghost Powered Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we do another deep dive into Tubi. And real quick before we get into this, if you could do me a favor and hit that like button, because that really helps this channel out so much. So for those of you not familiar with this channel, once a week I go searching through the popular streaming platforms and come up with 10 horror movies to recommend for you guys. And this week I came up with 10 horror movies on Tubi that I think you will definitely enjoy. And with that, let's get to this list. Alright, kicking this list off is a film called Starfish.
My name is Aubrey Parker, and I think I might be the last person left.
Hello?
Anybody?
Alright, so Starfish is a small indie film that I've never even heard of. I never heard anybody talk about it. And I was just scanning through Tubi, and I don't even know what made me think to click on it, but I did, and I checked it out, and I'm so glad that I did. Because yes, it's an indie movie, but it's an extremely well done indie movie. It is kind of a slow burn thriller, so it does take a while to get into it. You have to kind of put yourself into that mindset of not looking for a lot of big boom and action and all that, but more of a small time kind of movie. But the basic premise of it is this woman is dealing with the loss of a friend. Someone that she loves and cares about died. And so she's dealing with the loss of a friend. And then all of a sudden she wakes up one morning and basically, boom, monsters have taken over the earth, or UFOs or something like that. You don't exactly know. You just know that the world is basically an apocalyptic wasteland all of a sudden. And she's got to figure out what is going on.
It opens doorways.
This movie is a fucking trip. It's kind of like a psychedelic mess of some sort. Very mysterious. You're constantly trying to figure out what is going on. And by the end, you maybe have an idea of what happened, but it definitely leaves you wondering and not exactly sure what the whole movie was about or what exactly happened. But for anybody that loves mysterious stuff like I do, that definitely makes your wheels turn, this is a great one to check out.
People are gonna die anyways, but their stories don't have to.
Next, we go to Final Cut.
iTech introduces the 9th generation of the Zoe implant to record your memories so they may live on with those you leave behind.
Alright, so Final Cut stars the late, great Robin Williams. And I'm a huge fan of Robin Williams. I grew up watching him. I love him and everything from his comedian stand-up stuff to his more powerful dramatic roles. He was just an absolute genius. And this movie is one that not a lot of people talk about, but it is absolutely awesome. I've always really loved this movie. It's a very much a psychological thriller, a lot of action, definitely a little bit of horror, but mostly it's a sci-fi thriller type of situation, but he does an incredible job in this. It's a futuristic setting where he is this guy that's called a cutter.
I heard you were the best. My husband was a great man, Mr. Hackman. He deserves to be remembered as a great man.
And his job is to, after someone dies, take their thoughts, their memories, and cut them together to make a memory like presentation for their death, like at their wake kind of thing.
It's a strange profession you have, isn't it, Alan? You take people's lives, make lies out of them.
Deletion confirmed.
He starts to uncover some really creepy, weird stuff, and it just goes down this crazy rabbit hole. It just becomes this really fun and exciting thriller that I am a huge fan of, and I definitely recommend checking it out.
The Final Cut.
Next up, we go to The Taking of Debra, Logan.
They want to make a movie about me.
Yes, we will live and document our subjects' physical and mental degradation over the course of 2 one-month periods.
So I've heard about this movie for a very long time, and I hadn't really checked it out because the premise, I knew roughly what it was about, and I was like really hesitant going in because I have a hard time watching disturbing, dark, depressing stuff a lot of times because I kind of deal with my own psychological kookiness. I mean, look at the way I'm dressed. But no, I just have my own issues, like don't we all? But so depressing stuff doesn't necessarily always tickle my fancy, but in this case, I heard so many good things about it. I was like, all right, I need to check this fucking movie out. And so I finally did, and oh, I'm so glad that I did. But a big warning going in. Like I said, the reason I didn't check it out if you're someone that can't deal with a lot of disturbing, kind of dark and gloomy type of subject matter and stuff, then this may not be your cup of tea. But if you can hang through the first half of this movie, then it becomes just an amazing horror movie.
This is not normal sleepwalking. You should come see this. It's not good, Doc.
So the basic premise of this movie is this old woman and her daughter are struggling because she's showing signs of Alzheimer's, and she's slowly slipping into this, and their medical bills are piling up and things like that. And this documentary crew comes up and they're like, hey, we want to make a movie of your struggle and show what it's like so we can show the behind the scenes of what Alzheimer's really is like. And that's where this story starts. But then it starts to go in this really dark, weird, demonic possession, all this weird stuff that I don't want to give away. But it isn't exactly what it seems, but it definitely goes down some really supernatural, dark, creepy direction and becomes just a fantastic horror movie by the end. So if you've never checked it out and it sounds like something you can hang with, I definitely highly recommend that movie.
She's gonna die.
All right, next up we go to my double feature weekend picks. So the first one is a little film called Slither.
They're doing things to people, turning them into some kind of monsters.
How's everybody's evening?
All right, so Slither is one of James Gunn's early projects. And it is just so much fun. Man, I love this movie. And I'd heard about it for a long time. It had been on my list to watch for years. And just for different reasons, it was never available streaming. I've heard some legal issues why it had trouble being on streaming services, things like that. But either way, I just hadn't had a chance to watch it. And I finally did this week. And oh my God, it's one of my new favorite creature features. Such a great fun ride. It's basically about these people that get infected by these weird little alien worm things, and these creatures start taking over people's bodies and just crazy, disgusting chaos. It's very gory, very graphic, just brutal, but fantastic. If you're someone who recently checked out the new Suicide Squad movie, which I did a review of, and I absolutely loved, so if you're a fan of James Gunn and you dug that movie, then this is definitely a must-watch, man. I cannot recommend a movie more highly on how much fun I have with this movie.
Something's wrong with me.
Slither.
Have you ever seen anything like that? Me neither. I watch Animal Planet all the time.
All right, next we go to the second part of my double feature weekend, and that would be a movie called Splinter.
Hello?
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
So Splinter is another fantastic creature feature. And it is similar to Slither in the way that it's this alien, weird, you're not sure where it comes from thing that starts taking over people's bodies. And it's just a total body horror, just like Slither kind of film. But this one is much darker with less humor.
Watch the Splinter. Don't want to stick you.
It's less of a dark humor type of movie and much more of just a terrifying, scary scenario with these weird things starting to infect people and all kinds of bloody, gory chaos happens. It is a thriller, exciting, awesome creature feature horror movie. So do yourself a favor and watch a Slither Splinter double feature weekend.
It's gonna get in here. It's gonna kill it. You okay?
Don't touch it.
All right, next we go to a movie called Monster.
So what do we do now?
Whatever. 2 more. My girl's waiting over here. I got you now. I got everything going for me.
So this movie got a lot of Oscar buzz when it first came out because Charlize Theron was absolutely amazing in this movie. This is just a brilliant movie in every way you slice it. It is not my normal recommendation. It's much more of a drama, but it deals with true crime because she's playing this real character, this real woman, Arlene Warnos, who was a serial killer back in the 80s who would kill her Johns. She was kind of a prostitute, but just, I don't know. It's a long story with her. But this movie is basically showing the true life story of her. But no matter what, it's a great, dramatic, true crime type of thriller that I do highly recommend.
think that all these people just didn't know yet who I was gonna be. But one day, they'd all see.
All right, next we go to a film called Virus. All right, Virus is a film that came out in 1999, and it's a tough one because there's elements and things about this movie that are awesome, and it's why I'm recommending it on this list. But at the same time, it had the potential to be so much better. And if you've seen it or if you watch it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But listen to the cast that's in this movie. Jamie Lee Curtis, Joanna Pacella, Donald Sutherland, William Baldwin, and a bunch of other people that you'll recognize, like more smaller supporting role people. But it is just a brilliant cast, and it looks great. There's so many elements about this movie that are fantastic. The premise of it is there's this technology, like this space alien technology of some kind that comes to Earth and starts basically taking over our technology. It reminds me a lot of The Thing, but yet with technology. So instead of this alien creature doing what it does, it's like this technological, weird, robotic computer virus thing that does all this crazy stuff.
It's creating a new life form.
What? It wants us for spare parts.
But it's really cool body horror in a lot of this. The problem is it has some really bad dialogue at times, especially considering who is acting in this movie, especially in Donald Sutherland's case. It just makes you cringe at times. You're like, God, dude, like, I understand that the premise or whatever. I don't judge you for being in it, but damn, dude, couldn't you like do something? Because the things they're having you say and the scenarios are just so cheesy and just have not aged well at all. And there's some CGI in this that has not aged well at all either, because it was going into that late 90s, early 2000s where they felt they needed to use a bunch of CGI because it was this new toy, but it wasn't ready yet at all. So there definitely is some of that in it, but I think if you could turn your brain off, leave your brain at the door a little bit, and just kind of go into this with that frame of mind of that it isn't going to be the best story, the best dialogue. There are going to be some things that make you cringe a bit, but it also is a fun ride and does have some really cool body horror stuff. I think you'll definitely still enjoy it, so that's why I'm recommending it on this list. Next, we go to The Arrival.
Station 5.
Is my voice even vaguely familiar to you, Zane? I really don't want to repeat of last week.
Look, if I say I'm gonna be there, I will be there. End of story. There is nothing more important to me right now than that.
All right, so The Arrival stars Charlie Sheen, and this is one of my favorite roles that I've seen him in. This is this really weird, quirky movie that didn't get a lot of buzz, doesn't have the greatest budget, and it does have some pretty shitty CGI that hasn't aged the best. But it's basically about Charlie Sheen, who discovers that there's these aliens kind of starting to take over the world. He just starts to uncover this whole alien invasion that's kind of being done on the DL, and starts to just get involved in all this, and just craziness ensues. And the aliens are very unique in this. They have a really unique design. One of the things that I really enjoy about this movie, I think if you put aside the fact that the CGI is dated and that some of the actors aren't the greatest, this movie didn't have a huge budget, I think you'd still really enjoy this. Because I know I always have. I've watched this movie numerous times and I've always very much enjoyed it for a sci-fi / horror. It's just a really cool one that nobody ever talks about. So definitely check it out.
Stop watching the skies.
I know why they're here.
Start watching Look Back. Charlie Sheen, Ron Silver, The Arrival.
Next we go to Day of the Dead.
They can be tricked into being good little girls and boys, the same way we were tricked into it, on the promise of some reward to come.
So this is a legendary film from 1985 that was done by the late great George A. Romero. And this is one of my favorites. It's probably my second favorite, maybe my third favorite Romero. It's hard to really put him in that because I just love them all for different reasons. But this one is much darker and creepier, and it very much shines a light on the politics and things that were going on politically in the 1980s and just stuff that people were dealing with. So there is kind of a time capsule there with just the way people saw the world and some of the real life struggles that we were dealing with at the time. But it's just a beautifully done movie, and I'm sure most of you have seen it. But even if you have, it's just a great rewatch. I mean, it's George A. Romero at his best.
What the fuck is wrong with you people? They're dead! They're fucking dead!
It just shows the mastery of makeup that Tom Savini did. The gore in this is absolutely brilliant. It's just really one of those key horror movies that if you're a fan of horror, a younger horror fan, and just kind of getting into horror, it's one of those staples that I feel like is a must to kind of see and understand horror as a whole and why we do what we do now and why we enjoy the horror movies we do, why they're made the way they are, all those things. It's cool to go back and see the building blocks, and Day of the Dead is definitely one of those building blocks. I cannot recommend a movie higher than this. This movie is absolutely brilliant.
George A. Romero's Day of the Dead.
All right, and last up on this list is a film called Waxwork.
Imagine, if you will, an exhibit in fear.
It looks a little spooky, boys. You think we should do this?
A place that appeals to your deepest and darkest fantasies.
It's funny, I thought about not putting this last, but I always do my list not in any particular order, and I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm putting it wherever I want, and I decided to end it with this because it's a movie that has always been near and dear to my heart, but yet you don't hear a lot of people talk about. It definitely shows the 1980s horror in a really great way. The practical effects are a lot of fun in this. The basic premise of this movie is this group goes to this wax museum, right? And they start checking out these wax figures and this and that, and then all of a sudden they start slipping into the reality of the scene. So if it's like a werewolf scene, then bam, they fall into this, and all of a sudden they're in this nightmare werewolf hunting them kind of situation. But there's all these different scenarios, all these different scenes, and the way it's done is just a lot of fun. This is one of those movies that if you're a fan of 1980s horror, especially of practical effects, of monsters, makeup, and things like that, then this is a must watch. It is just a lot of fun.
Vestron Pictures welcomes you into a new dimension in terror. Waxwork.
Alright guys, that's going to do it for me today. Please leave your comments down below. Let me know if you're going to check out any of these movies, or if you have, the ones you're a fan of. And if you could also do me a favor and hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel. And when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this at least 2 times every week, I also want to give a huge, massive thank you to my patrons, because you guys, your support seriously means so much to me. And if you would like to find out more about becoming a patron and helping to produce this channel, the link is down in the description. And like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember guys, horror can be fun. I will see you guys next time.